Corbyn. Watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. and this is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Tonight.
Somebody has been convicted and sentenced, then they will be immediately deported, because it is wrong that the British taxpayer is paying for them in our prisons, and they are taking up space in our prisons that we need.
Well, the government said lots of foreign criminals will be deported, but what is the catch? And do you really believe those lefty lawyers are going to let it happen? Also coming up.
We're back and we're ready for it all over again.
One of Jeremy Corbyn's closest advisors says he could take inspiration from, guess who? Lenin. Hasn't Britain got enough problems without us copying the man who created the world's first communist state? And there's more migrant madness. Ministers have now admitted they have lost track of over 150,000 people who entered the UK on social care visas. Are you really surprised? And is there any point in getting a university degree anymore? That's as students with A-level grades as low as 3 E's are being accepted into British universities to fulfil government diversity targets. And joining me tonight, I've got a superstar panel: GB News contributor Will Kingston, broadcaster Fahima Mohammed, and political commentator Chloe Dobbs. What is going on here? We've got a big show for you tonight, trust me. But let's start off with that news today. The immediate deportations of foreign criminals is Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood's latest ploy to get tough on law and order. But is this yet another spout of gaslighting from a government who has promised change but consistently failed to deliver it? The Justice Secretary has announced today that she will send foreign criminals packing, as she says. But many of you will simply be rolling your eyes at home, won't you? Well, Alex Davies-Jones, Minister in the Immigration Department, has spoken with GB News about the plan. And the big question is, will Labour be changing the law, particularly around the ECHR's Article 8, a common workaround you'll all be familiar with now under the right to family life? If they really want to get this off the ground, they're going to have to change that law, aren't they?
Been very clear as a government, the Home Secretary and the Lord Chancellor, that we feel like Article 8, which is the right to a family life, is being abused currently. We need to tighten that up, and we are looking at just exactly how we do that.
Yeah, well, that all sounds good, doesn't it? But no details there as to how they're going to change the law. And yet, the reality remains that the ECHR could still rule the UK is in breach if they don't like what the government does. And do you believe the UK government, the Labour government, would challenge or ignore the ECHR if they did rule against us?
We either comply with international law or we don't. And we only have strength in our arguments because we comply with international law.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is crystal clear, isn't it? And what about the cost to you at home, the taxpayers? What do we know about that?
So, of course, you know, this will be done, as is always done regarding deportations. We're just doing this quicker. These criminals would have been deported anyway. They would have been done at 50% of their sentence. We think that's wrong, that the taxpayer is funding any of that at all. They should be deported immediately, and we're bringing that forward, and we are sending them back as they would have been done anyway.
Oh, OK, so nothing there on the cost for taxpayers on deportations yet. Now, what about countries that refuse to take back foreign criminals?
International law is very, very clear. If there is a foreign national offender, then they have to be removed to that country. They can't refuse to take them.
Oh, well, funny that. In that case, why are Pakistani Rochdale rape gang members Qari Abdul Rauf and Radul Khan still in the country? Is it perhaps because Pakistan refused to take them back? The reality is that whilst the minister is broadly right about this, they should, under international, be taking them back. There's technically no enforcement mechanism for returns, and it's often bypassed by disputing nationality or revoking citizenship. What are they going to do then? They're going to revert back to what the ECHR say, aren't they? Which is going to be, oh, sorry, you can't do that. Look, I want to celebrate success when common sense prevails, and I genuinely hope this initiative isn't more false hope for a nation. All of us at home are being taken for mugs. You're all fed up at home, aren't you? Especially by taken for mugs by foreign criminals. But honestly, I think this image posted by Downing Street says it all. It says, if you come to this country and commit a crime, you will face deportation. And there's a little bit at the bottom there, as soon as possible. Doesn't that just tell you it all? Everyone watching home, that is the key line there. As soon as possible. There is, in my opinion, no plan, no timeline, and just as that one in, one out deal, there is clearly no way they're going to get this off the ground, and it's going to do half of what it says it does. But now, let me come to my expert panel. Chloe Dobbs, Will Kingston, Fahima Mohammed, thank you all for joining me tonight. Will, I'll start with you. Look, listen, as I said in my little speech just there, I want this to be real. I think this is a common sense policy. Should have been done a long time ago. The Tories definitely should have done it. But do you believe this is really going to happen?
Yeah, I'm a tad sceptical, Alex, just a tad. Mate, you've outlined most of the practical concerns here. As you often do, you nick the good arguments in your monologue. But there is a broader strategic reason as to why this won't work. Yeah. We've seen this over the last 10 years, and that is because policies don't tend to work when the people who are implementing the policies don't really believe in them. We saw the same thing in Brexit, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right.
We saw the exact same problem. And we know in our heart of hearts that they don't believe in deportations because they've been saying for the last 10 years that you're racist if you believe in deportations. The turnaround now is purely because of political pressure, but there's no way when push comes to shove, they're actually going to do the hard things necessary to implement this.
Yeah, Chloe, I mean, that poster at the end there really made me laugh. I saw that a little bit later on in the day and I was like, you know what, it's just that little bit at the end, isn't it? As soon as possible. It's kind of like, it should have been in small print, really, like a fine print. If you buy this, just bear in mind, you might not get your delivery on time.
I mean, there's just no detail whatsoever. It's the same as you say with the one in, one out policy. Clearly, these people have no idea how this is going to work. I mean, with this one in, one out, 50 people being swapped a week, we have no idea if they're going to be sent over to France before they've had human rights claims tested. The French say, oh, we won't take them until if and when any claims have been tested. But then Lisa Nandy says, oh, we'll be able to send them over fast. Complete and utter mess. And then with this, they're clearly just trying to push something out because they're desperate. They see all of these protests happening at migrant hotels and they can see that people in this country are furious about immigration and people being in the country who shouldn't be in the country, and they think, oh, we just got to push something out, even though it's not planned whatsoever. And it clearly, I think Will kind of hit the nail on the head in that, saying that this is something that doesn't come from a place of conviction, it comes from a place of desperation, and you can clearly sense that when it's taken them over a year to come up with this bright idea.
Yeah, Fahima, I guess it seems to me when it comes to these policies, this is not what Labour really wanted to do in government, but they are being forced, it seems, by perhaps the prevailing tidal wave of reform in the polls to pivot into a right-wing agenda. Would you agree with that assessment?
I think to an extent, absolutely. I think nowadays we have a completely different UK politics that we've ever seen before, whereas, you know, the two-party, three-party, whatever it is not the norm. Where that is not the only choice anymore, and people are screaming and shouting louder, and they have to be heard. And I think Labour's never been genuine as soon as they came in themselves to who and what they stand for, and now it's really showing with the pressure. However, I don't think that they or anyone else, or even Reform for that matter, can actually put this forward, as they say, because they have to follow the rule of law. And the rule of law does state that the ECHR and lots of other sort of, laws that are out there, which the UK, it's part of their democracy, as well as the fact that it's the British values and the fact that we have these laws for many, many decades. It won't actually change in any way at all.
Well, I want to come back to the panel in just a moment, because we have got a guest joining us down the line. A human rights lawyer, Shahab Khan, is joining me to talk about this issue. Shahab, welcome back to the show. It's lovely to always have a fiery start to the evening with you. Do you welcome this decision by the government? I guess this is not great news for human rights lawyers up and down the country, because if the government are saying, listen, we're going to change the rules, we're going to get around the ECHR, it may impact how much work you guys have.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we don't, but I don't think anyone, is there anyone you've heard who is welcoming it? I mean, to be honest, I think it's, obviously, like we just heard, I mean, I think I agree with that. It's just, the desperate scheming of a desperate government. They have to bring something out. And obviously, the ridiculous, disastrous one in, one out, whatever that's supposed to mean. So after that, of course, the Justice Secretary had to write some column in the newspaper. And obviously, what better than vilifying foreign criminals again? Let's just go for that one again. But of course, I mean, even from what we can hear so far, like your guest just said, there's no detail really, but it just seems quite ridiculous, really. So, for instance, previously, at least we had the safeguard that said that the minimum sentence needs to be at least 12 months. So, okay, I mean, in this country, generally, we lock up far too many people for far too non-serious crimes for far too long.
Shahab, do you agree that we should be deporting foreign criminals? Maybe let's just go back to basics on this. Do you agree that we should be actually cracking down on foreign criminals and sending them back to their country of origin?
Much less than our government's tried to send, and that's the point. I mean, now they, like I was just saying, they're even taking away the 12-month minimum. So that means someone gets sent to jail for 2 days and they'll be deported from the country. I think that's ridiculous. I'm not sure, does even Reform want that? Is there anyone sensible in the country who thinks that's a good idea? People who've been here for decades, their wives are here, children are here, families might be British, just for some reason they're not British. And that's another thing, I know we all talk about foreign criminals and we think about, people either coming over on small boats or others, but like the Windrush scandal told us, and so many others, there are literally people, and obviously we know these people who've been in the country for decades, their whole families are, but for whatever reason, personally...
Shahab, okay, let me just interrupt you for a second. I mean, because, look, if you went to any other country around the world, this doesn't matter whether it's the UK, whether it's America, whether it's anywhere in the Middle East or China or Australia, if you commit a crime and you aren't a member of that society, you aren't a citizen of that society, well, the people there go, well, first of all, we've welcomed you with open arms, you've committed a crime in our country, you're not our problem, our taxpayers shouldn't have to worry about putting you in prison, they just send you home. Now, surely that is not an unreasonable thing to... Every reasonable country around the world does this.
I mean, well, firstly, I mean, I don't agree that all countries do, but even those that do, of course, that's wrong, and that's the point. I'm not saying that we should be competing. I mean, with America, so many others who have completely inhumane prison systems and penal systems.
But we're talking about deportations, not so much the prison system, but perhaps we're just in many cases hang on, Shahab, because the Justice Minister there was saying that we're going to just send them home straight away. We're not going to put them through the prison system, so you must be welcoming that as a human rights law. They're not. Many of them won't even serve terms in prison. We were talking about this the other day, and you were saying, well, some of their prison sentences are too long, and then they stay in prison even longer because they're foreign criminals. So now you're telling me that they should serve time here, are you? I'm really confused about where you stand on this.
Of course they should. And I've been saying that for ages, whether it's other people...
Why should they serve time in this country? They should. Why should taxpayers pay for them to stay in this country? This is completely ludicrous.
Why are we assuming they're not taxpayers? I mean, people who come to this country, even if we talk about people who've been here short term, whether it's foreign students...
Why should citizens then? Fair enough, maybe some of them are taxpayers, you're right there. Hang on, because you're right, I want to concede there. Some of them will be taxpayers, you're absolutely right, but it doesn't really matter, does it? It doesn't really matter, because they won't be taxpayers when they go to prison. The people who are taxpayers, who are law-abiding citizens of this country, will then have to foot the bill for them. Surely just that it's not that, don't go and abuse the nature of the kindness and the goodwill of the country that's hosted you. I can't imagine ever going to a foreign country anywhere in the world, committing a crime, and then expecting the people of that country to foot the bill for me to stay in prison in their country.
Sorry, do you read the papers? Have you not seen the British people who go on holiday all over the world?
Yeah,
and end up
I'm saying me. I condemn them. I condemn them as well, but they're deported back to the UK, usually, right?
Because they're on holiday. Not if they have, for instance, you have a Spanish wife and Spanish kids, and you've been in Spain for 5 decades.
Tough. Deport the British people back to Britain to serve time here, then. I don't care. If you commit a crime, and you're anybody, whether you're British, whether you're, I don't know, French or Afghanistani or Pakistani, I don't care. If you're not a citizen of that country, you commit a crime there, then go home.
But also the point is, I don't know, for instance, you and I, we get together in a criminal gang, we both commit the same offence, we receive the same sentence. You're British, I'm not. Why should I then be deported far away from my wife and kids?
Because you're not British. Because it's not. Because if that was the case, Shab, then you're not a citizen of this country, and therefore it shouldn't be my burden to pay for you.
It's the definition of discrimination. You serve one sentence, I serve two. First I go to prison, then I get to leave the country.
But Shab, under this proposed scheme, you'll just go straight back to your country unless you've committed a terrorism crime or something very heinous, in which case I think you would probably be a danger to Britain if you were sent back home, because you might try and come back again. So actually, this rule sends you away from the country if you've not committed one of the most heinous crimes. But if you have committed a heinous crime, you will be kept here so we can keep an eye on you. Then you'll go home. So actually, I think that's quite fair. Do you not agree?
I don't agree, because like I just said, why? Why do you get to forget about double punishment? Why do you get a different punishment from me?
Because you're not a citizen of the country. You've abused the rights of the country you visited.
When it comes to the criminal justice system, that should make no difference.
OK, look, Shahar, thank you so much for your listen. I think we will have to agree to disagree and leave it there. Thank you very much. I'd love to bring in bring back my panel. I'm going to get my words out after that. Will, you were raring to go before the debate there, so I want to let you have another pop at it. What were you going to go on there?
Well, I'll say firstly, I have some sympathy for part of what he just said, in that if my daughter had been raped by a Pakistani rape gang member, I want to see them suffer. I want to see them in jail. I want to see them penalised. So as long as, to your point, that those particularly heinous crimes are still punished, then that is fine. But if they are not, then I have a problem with that on the grounds of justice and retributive justice. To the point of law, and I think Fahima said this before, that, well, we need to observe the law in these instances. And I think the great thing about being in government is that you can change the law.
You're there to write the laws.
If they want, you're allowed to write the laws. You're allowed to scrap laws like the Human Rights Act. You're allowed to leave conventions like the ECHR. And when it comes to international human rights law or international law, well, we all know that's a nonsense anyway, and we're the only ones who are suckers who actually follows a lot of this stuff, whereas people like in Pakistan, they don't follow it and they get the benefits of that.
Yeah, Fahima, I'll come back to you because, look, I don't want there to be unfair justice for anybody. Like, everyone should suffer justice. However, I do feel, and this is the same for most countries around the world, this is a very common sense thing to do. If you've committed a crime somewhere, citizens of that country, it doesn't mean you're... it always gets down to the lowest common denominator debate here, because it always becomes about race. It's not about race. No, my stepfather's a citizen of this country. He came here from Iran. He wouldn't want foreign criminals here taking up prison spaces when the country's already overflowing with criminals.
So do you consider him a citizen?
He is a citizen.
Right.
He is.
So you're talking about people that have been in this country and have a British passport.
But he is a technical citizen of the country.
Right.
So that's where the law is, right? So we're talking about the law, and they're saying if you're not a citizen of the country and you've committed a crime, you'll be deported back to your country of origin. I think that is fair.
Yes, it is fair, and obviously everyone has to have the most severe sort of punishment when it comes to that. People that are coming into this country, their own countries actually have much more heinous sort of punishments for them. The point is, in this country, we are blaming the wrong people. It's the government, it's the processes. We don't even have enough judges in this country to process these kinds of, immediate sort of reactions or whatever it is. People that are screaming, go out and get a degree, become a lawyer, become a barrister, and be part of the actual, system and the process.
I think the problem is for him is that the current system doesn't allow for foreign criminals to be deported because of... This is why the government's changing the law on it, because even the Labour Party have looked at it and gone, actually, it's kind of ludicrous that we can't deport someone who's a foreign criminal because of the ECHR, the Article 8, many other articles of the law, and therefore that's a problem.
It's a case-by-case situation. Yeah. I don't think that you can sort of deport them if it's for minor crimes. If it's something more severe, then absolutely yes. And also it depends on many other actions with regards to them having an actual agreement with that country that they come from, which we don't.
OK, Chloe, I'll give you the last word on this one. What do you make of that? I mean, listen, I think I just want to go back to this policy again rather than getting too stuck into the detail, because, again, when you really consider whether the government would take on the ECHR, they're saying they're going to change the law, right? Let's face it, right? I think me and you both now, and many people disagree, but me and you, I think, both would agree that actually Keir Starmer is a lovey of the international law lefties, isn't he?
I mean, of course he is. I mean, that is without a doubt. Do you really think for a second that Keir Starmer, the lawyer, and his mate Lord Hermer are going to, for a second, even consider ignoring the ECHR? I mean, well, you're right to say we're the only ones that are suckers to the ECHR. Other countries, and I'm not talking about crazy regimes, I'm talking about places like France, ignore Germany. The ECHR. There have been so many ECHR judgments that have been completely ignored. I mean, for example, France, they sent a terrorist back to Uzbekistan. ECHR said you couldn't, and they said, no, he's a terrorist. This is ludicrous. Off you go. But in Britain, we're like, they're human rights.
This is just
they don't like the chicken nuggets in Albania and this and that.
I don't think it's that simple, honestly. I think you guys are just really over-exaggerating these cases, and I really do feel that it is a case-by-case situation. No one is saying that they cannot be deported, and every country does have their own, including Poland and France. At the end of the day, the UK is part of the human ECHR. They are actually going to set a precedent of how to be. It is not that easy to even get rid of. It's not going to get rid of criminals either, and it's also going to take away sort of the deals and agreements, whether it's Scotland, Wales and Ireland and things like that. It's not just simple, change the law like we would the government. No one trusts that.
But it's easier to just ignore the ECHR.
So I have to move on. I'm so sorry. Listen, there's going to be more details, I'm sure, coming about this policy. So if you thought this was a fiery debate, I suspect there's plenty more to come. And there will be more to come on the show tonight. But the Home Office have said this. The Home Office are working to improve the recording of detailed data held on foreign national offenders, and an upgrade to the management information system is currently underway. These improvements require significant changes to the data collection and infrastructure which underpins the management information. Once these changes have been completed, our ability to provide accurate extracts and more detailed information will be significantly improved.
Nothingy nonsense.
It's now time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a whole year. Plus, an extra £5 in your bank to play with. And if you don't have a mortgage, don't worry, or a monthly rent, we'll give you 15 grand in cash instead. Here are all the details you're going to need.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure, for another chance to win. Text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, up next, I'll ask whether Jeremy Corbyn should take inspiration from Lenin. Yes, Lenin, you know, the communist dictator, that one. Yes, this is Ben Leo tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is Ben Lingo tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, only on GB News, of course. Let's talk about a story that caught my eye today. Former advisor to Jeremy Corbyn has said he could take inspiration from the ideas of Lenin. Of course, Lenin is the former communist dictator, the man who started the first communist state. Corbyn and another ex-Labour MP, Zara Sultana, of course, have set up a new left-wing party. We believe it might be called Your Party or something else, who knows? James Schneider, who's a regular guest on GB News, has given a lengthy interview to the New Left Review. Among his wide-ranging comments, he said this. You ran a short, thought-provoking piece by Dylan Riley the other week titled Lenin in America, which argued that Lenin today would pursue a productive and creative relationship to the specific national democratic revolutionary political cultures in which one operates. The British left needs to be thinking along these lines. And I just want to be clear before we get started here, James Schneider, really nice guy, and this isn't a personal attack on him, right? I want to discuss where Corbyn's party's going to go. I want to know if there are real communists in this country and whether or not they want to take us in that direction, Will. And I'm sure you'll be absolutely horrified to hear this news.
No, I'm going to surprise you here, Alex. I think it's good advice. And let me tell you what. Now, obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of Lenin.
Are you sure?
I'm not the biggest fan of Lenin. But at the same time, I've just finished a podcast on Lenin, so I'm in a big Lenin phase.
You're in a Lenin phase,
big Lenin, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
Keep an eye on this one.
Number one, he was incredibly efficient. And it was unbelievable what he achieved in being able to seize power in the way that sort of lazy, modern, purple-haired lefties can get their head around.
Wait, hang on. When you say the way he seized power, did he not have a bloody revolution to seize power?
There were upsides and downsides. Right. But the other more important thing, and maybe more significant point I'd make, is that is the way the modern left is going around the world. You look at Mamdani in New York, you look at the Somalian immigrant guy in Minnesota. They are all moving further and further to the left. Do I think that is disastrous for this country? Absolutely. But I ultimately think it is where the political winds are going on the left. And it will probably be very popular with the loony lefties in this country.
But Chloe, we seem to be going back to sort of like a Cold War era style. We've got the really strong right-wing, strong law and order, strong capitalism, and we've got the left who are really going communist, strong on socialism. Is this a sign that the electorate have been so dissatisfied with centrist politics for 30 years? It has delivered very little value for money for them, very little in the way of preserving the state in which people are happy, at least in countries in the West. Is this where we're headed?
I think that there actually is a decent chance that we could, in 2029, have a general election where the two main rival parties are Corbyn's Your Party and the Reform Party. I mean, I'm not saying that that is definitely going to happen, but there certainly is a decent possibility, and some pollsters are saying so. And I think you're absolutely right that people have felt like the centre parties have absolutely failed them, so they are turning to those extremes. The reality is that a centrist party could actually be decent if they just did something whilst they're in government and actually delivered their policies that they put forward. I wouldn't mind having a centrist government if those centrist policies were actually pursued, but, you know, the parties we've had, they just don't do anything. They just run around like headless chickens arguing over headlines.
Yeah, Fahima, I'm actually, I mean, you know what, you might agree. I don't actually know what your political persuasions are, actually, Fahima, but do you agree with this sentiment? Like, I think the country's sort of looking for something. People are looking for something to attach themselves to, something radical, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the hypocrisy here is calling hard left when the right also associate with certain apartheid leaders, genocide enablers, and that's not called upon. So at the end of the day, I just think, you know, calling hard left and right, I don't really associate with any of those.
No, fair enough.
But at the same time, I think that when we are talking about these kind of things, yes, in every sort of regime, just like Will mentioned, there might be certain things that we need to take, you know, considerations for with social and economical. And the thing is, with Corbyn, he really does align himself with the people and the workers, which no one does, and certainly not the right does either.
OK, Will?
Yeah, look, to perhaps maybe be slightly less glib, any move towards communism or just an increased tax burden in this country would be fundamentally disastrous. There's only one path that will get us out of this mess, and that is a pro-growth path, which is lower taxes and lower regulation. What this would be the exact opposite.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, listen, I kind of welcome that there's a bit of change in politics where people we've complained for a very, very long time that we don't have choice because all the political parties are the same. So perhaps we are getting what we finally asked for, which is that the gap on the right and the left has opened up for people to have some choice at the next election. Maybe we're moving to a multipolar system, perhaps.
What's the old quote? You know, politics is the belief that people should get what they want.
That's right, mate.
And they should get it good and hard.
Well, listen, talking about James Schneider, we did ask James to come on the show to speak about his comments. He's abroad at the moment and wasn't able to appear. However, he did send us this statement. My dream is a party that hits with the same impact as Turn the Page, the opening track on The Streets' debut album, Pirate Material. Something you've never heard before, yet instantly recognisable, unmistakably British and rooted in everyday life from the pubs to the pavements. A sound, or in our case, a politics that ethically blends cultures and traditions anchored in class and community, but moving forward with confidence and style. We should offer class war with a grin. The reason for our problems is the bankers and the billionaires. They are at war with us, so we are going to war with them. James added that the interview was given in a personal capacity, not as a spokesperson. OK, coming up, I will tell you about the chaos in the Home Office again. 150,000 migrants missing. But if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's some of the top European destinations for you.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The European heatwave will continue over the next few days, so some very high temperatures for many places. Lots of blue skies and sunshine, though, including the Canary Islands and Madeira, but the heat is most intense across Iberia, so Portugal and inland parts of Spain seeing temperatures into the low to mid-40s Celsius. Hot also across Italy, the Balkans, Greece and Turkey. And it's going to stay hot over the next few days as well. Lots and lots of sunshine, temperatures in the high 30s or low 40s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and a bit of a north-south split over the next 12 or so hours. Outbreaks of rain pushing across Northern Ireland and Scotland, but high pressure dominating across much of England and Wales. You can see those weather fronts moving in as we go through the next few hours, introducing outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and Scotland, pushing its way eastwards. Rain will be hit and miss. There'll be light and patchy in places, but there is the risk of a few heavier bursts. Generally elsewhere, it's largely dry with clear spells and mist and fog patches forming. The cloud and rain just starting to edge into northern parts of England by the end of the night. So a north-south split to start Monday morning. Best of the sunshine across central and southern parts of England and Wales, but a different picture across the northern half of the UK. Fairly cloudy across Scotland, outbreaks of rain. Though there could be a few glimmers of brightness here and there, and after a damp start for Northern Ireland, the sun should start to appear here too, and a mixed picture across northern England. A few mist and fog patches first thing across the rest of England and Wales, but they will soon clear, and then there'll be plenty of hazy sunshine as we go through the day. There is the risk of 1 or 2 heavy showers or thunderstorms starting to move up from the southwest as we move through the day, but most places will stay dry, and the rain across the north will become more confined to northern Scotland as we move into the afternoon. And feeling quite hot, particularly in the sunshine, temperatures reaching around 31 Celsius for many, the mid to high 20s. And then into Tuesday again, a lovely day to come, plenty of hazy sunshine. The risk of 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places in the heat of the day, but many places dry with sunny spells and temperatures lifting further, reaching around 32 or 33 Celsius. Probably the peak in the heat, but staying very warm through the rest of the week. Temperatures well above average. See you soon.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Welcome back to Bedligo tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. There is, of course, more embarrassment for the Home Office today. That's after it emerged that it's lost track of a massive, whopping 150,000 migrants who came here on social care visas. The rules were relaxed in 2022 to ease the pressure on the care sector, and Labour scrapped the scheme earlier this year. But the government doesn't know how many of the people who moved here are still working in the industry. Well, we are now joined by the legal consultant Fadi Fahad. Fadi, this is a complete ridiculous farce, isn't it? I mean, the Home Office, the people we pay our taxes to keep track of who's coming in and out of the country. A government that's claiming it's getting a grip on immigration doesn't even know how many people are here on their visas.
Good evening. Yes. I mean, the social care visa was introduced in 2022, and in 2023 it's estimated around 100,000 applicants came in on this particular visa in that year alone, 2023. And then sort of in 2024 that went down to around 9,000. It's quite curious, but it seems because I think most of the positions had been recruited and had been fulfilled. This particular story, it's quite, for me, it's quite interesting in that the Care Minister, Stephen Kinnock, was responding to a question as to how many people that entered under this category were still working in this category under this visa. And the Minister's reply was that the Home Office doesn't hold that data. So although the Home Office holds data as to the initial visas issued, it doesn't hold data that monitors whether you stay in the job after you've entered the UK. So it's in that context that they are missing, or that the Home Office has lost track of them. But of course, it could still be, and I suspect this is the case, that the majority are still in the job. just because the Home Office do not know if they've left the job or transferred to another route doesn't mean that they could still be in the job. So in the sense of losing track, because usually when you use the phrase losing track of, it's used in the context of immigration bail in relation to asylum seekers, in relation to people that have gone underground and you truly do not know where they are or what's happened to them. In this case, I think it's just a fault on the government for not having that data post-entry and not monitoring that data post-entry. But that's not to say that there's outright or widespread abuse. It could be that the majority are still working in that sector.
Yes,
and it's not their fault the government hasn't kept tabs.
Absolutely.
So in that sense, that's even more disastrous to me, because you just don't know what's happening. And if abuse is taking place, you don't know it's happening. And of course, if there are good employees and good applicants, you don't even know about the good ones as well. So it's almost a double whammy.
Yeah, I think this is the way I've looked at it as well, Fadi, because it is simply the fact that they don't know how many people are here. And then on top of that, this is a government that's getting tough on immigration, but we literally can't keep on top of that. So how would we know how many more migrants we would need to bring here to, like, let's say, to fill the social care sector in that sense? So this whole thing speaks to complete and utter chaos in the Home Office. Of course, over the last year alone, we've seen multiple instances where the Home Office either haven't kept track of something or the government have. I mean, I'm just thinking about the Afghan data leak not that long ago. I know that happened under the Tory government, but it's still the same civil service underneath it, right? So is there a feeling, perhaps, that something is deeply wrong in the way that our civil service is working? It's either behind technologically or it's incompetent?
Indeed, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because if you can't have that monitoring and observation, you can't monitor the good or the bad. So it works both ways, because also you need to have the success stories and find out what's working and what's not working. And I think, yes, it's sort of, it's glaringly a case of not planning or being technologically behind, or simply not cooperating with sponsors, because all of these applicants under this category will have a sponsor, and that sponsor is approved by the Home Office. So you've got that data set there, and the foundations are there potentially to have and gather that data. So it's not impossible even now to sort of re-piece and try to create the jigsaw or have a picture emerge from the pieces. But they just seemingly don't want to do it at this point in time. But, you know, if you're going to create a system that is fit for purpose, it starts from the bottom up.
Yeah, it's funny. It certainly does. I mean, we're all citizens here. We're all members of the public. We're all taxpayers here. How concerned should people be? That, I mean, we talk about this more broadly in the civil service, because it's not just the Home Office that sees these sorts of loss of data or inadequate failure to track very important numbers. Many people would say, particularly as immigration's been the side. And I would say, the Tories, this is something that they surely should have been fixing. The party that wanted to take back control couldn't even monitor how many people were taking out visas under their schemes.
Well, I think you've hit I think that's a very valid point, because we mustn't forget, and this isn't to get Labour out of jail on this, but when we're talking about potentially being technologically behind, Labour will point to the fact that they inherited this system, and the Tories have been in charge of that since 2010. And we know the bulk of technological advancement has occurred in terms of automation, in terms of AI. That has taken place post-2010. So it is for a large period under the Tories' watch.
Yeah.
And that would be concerning. And I think Labour will need to figure a way forward. And the Tories, if they were to build any further credibility in this field, will need to explain themselves as to what happened across the bulk of 14 years.
Yeah, Fadi Farhat, I completely agree with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Legal consultant there, Fadi Farhat. I'd like to bring this conversation out to my panel here. Fahima, I'll start with you. Look, I really believe there's a sense in the country that our government isn't working for people. It isn't working. It can't even track simple stuff like, you know, the number of people on visas, or we've got these data leaks which are putting the lives of British citizens in danger, putting the lives of foreign people in danger, frankly, as well, when it comes to... What kind of issues is it going to take? What is it going to take for the government to get a grip on this, do you think? Or can our politicians just simply not deliver?
I think we are really far behind when it comes to technology, most definitely. And I do feel that even if we're saying that they are lost, let's just look at someone who is here on a visa, and if their visa has run out, now there are new e-visas. So even if they have to apply for a bank account or a credit card, which they have to survive after a while, they will need a legitimate sort of like ID, which is verified and also within the actual time limit. So I think eventually that will come round, but I think the systems that we operate in is very, very behind. I'm originally from South Africa, and you would think it was part of a system which is much more behind. But in certain cases, we're actually much more ahead. So I think that the UK does need to invest more in sort of outside, like wars and, you know, whatever it does, but invest within the country to build their system so that these things do not actually, you know, go the way it's going right now.
Sure, Chloe, I need a brief response from you on this scandal. Do you think our politicians will never be able to get a grip on this?
Not in the foreseeable future, not before 2029. I just want to tell you one crazy story of how the system is abused. There was a caller on a radio station that said, I came and all of my family all came on this system. We set up on company's house, a fake company for a care company, came in on that and then just got jobs elsewhere. That's how it can be abused.
Yeah, it's super easy. And Will, just yes or no from you. Do you think we need to scrap the civil service and start again?
Yes.
There we go. That's all we needed to hear from Will Kingston on that one. Right, Home Office spokesperson has said this. This route, which we closed with our immigration white paper, was previously was opened under the previous government. We also inherited a data system which was not designed to monitor the long-term outcomes of health and care visa holders, including whether they remain in Britain or continue working in the social care sector. The number of people who have been returned from this country is up by 11% since the election, including those who have overstayed their visa. A comprehensive plan has been set out in the immigration white paper to bring greater order to our system by reducing reliance on overseas labour. There you have it. Maybe the civil service should stop wasting time with seminars on feeling guilty for being British and actually get on with the job. Anyway, coming up, find out why teenagers who get 3 E's at A-level are being offered university places. And guess what? It's all in the name of diversity. This is Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. See you after the break.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, what is the point going to university anymore? Students with A-level grades as low as 3 E's are being accepted into British universities to, guess what, of course, fulfil government diversity targets. Figures from admission body UCAS show many top universities are lowering the entry standards in a bid to fulfil equity, diversity and inclusion targets. Well, I'm joined by the former Higher and Further Education Minister as well as former Culture Secretary Michelle Dunlow. Michelle, lovely to have you back. Thank you for joining me tonight. This blew my mind, this story, when I saw it today. I think you'll probably agree with me on this. Surely university should start off with being getting in because you deserve to be there.
Well, absolutely on merit, but I think there are two problems for me with this story. First of all, that students are, and it's nothing new, but students getting in with those grades, which I've always thought was a big problem because you're setting students up to fail. They're much more likely to drop out, and that's just common sense and obvious. And then secondly, this idea that it's being used to bolster EDI, because that's not what real social mobility is. Real social mobility is not about getting students to university, to the door, as if that's the prize. It's about getting students graduated and then getting them graduate jobs. Let's remember, going to university is a really costly endeavour for both the student and the taxpayer as well. We're talking tens of thousands of pounds. So this drive of bums on seats is not doing anybody any favours. Now, of course, this is the minority of universities. It's not all of them. We should stress that. But this practice is really wrong because it's really wrong for the students and for our international reputation, given the fact that we have so many world-leading universities. This doesn't do them any favours either.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Michelle. I was reading earlier the amount of UK universities, because a lot of these come under this foundation year. Am I right in saying that? You maybe can correct me on this. You're probably more versed on this than I am. But UK universities offering foundations has gone from 52 and doubled to over 105 in the course of 10 years. What is the driving force? Because many people will look at this and say, well, this is an incentive for these universities because they're getting money from the government, aren't they?
Yeah, and that was something that we did try to tackle. And some of this is foundation courses, as you say. Some of it isn't. Some of it is students actually getting onto a fully fledged degree course with 3 or even 2 E's. And then their chances of dropping out, I warned years ago, were double the amount of a student that was getting the normal required grades. What's also risen is the number of universities giving what we call just contextual grades. Now, there is a place for contextual grades. Some horrendous things happen to young people and they need to be taken on board, but they shouldn't become the norm. This is a big problem if we're going to have a system that's based on merit, that is fair across the field and is not letting our students down. Yeah. And this doesn't smack of a Britain that is thinking about our young people or thinking about our international reputation on the stage. Yeah, and
Michelle, I think I want to talk about something that, as a former politician, you will perhaps understand. Is there a desire by governments to not want to at least disincentivise young people to going to university because it will increase the unemployment figure? Is there something around that there? This is why Tony Blair started that drive for 50% of young people going to university, which I think is bonkers, by the way. It's going to get more and more bonkers the more AI pulls ahead of society and makes many office jobs redundant. Actually, many of them will have benefited from going to somewhere they can learn a skill. But is there a drive by governments to keep young people in education and build up this massive debt? Because actually, it doesn't matter. By the time they get to 21, it will help the unemployment figures.
Well, also, speaking crudely, in terms of this government now, they're not going to be the ones that have to mop up that debt, are they, either, later on? But certainly what we did when we were in power was we scrapped that target, which is completely bonkers. And we tried to rectify the situation by having a massive skills revolution, pumping a load of money and resource into apprenticeships, into the launch of T-levels, and trying to rebalance it so that the other options were just as credible, if not more exciting and more valid. And the thing that I really wanted to do, and I launched a consultation and got really far with it just before I was reshuffled. And then, unfortunately, the next minister didn't like the idea as much as I had, and nor did the next prime minister, because we did have a few. But what I tried to do was introduce minimum entry requirements, which I think is common sense again. And that doesn't mean that your choices and chances are limited. You can, of course, go and retake a qualification if you really want. But it also means that maybe you'll be doing the right course for you and end up in a career path that might actually earn you a lot more money.
And Michelle, very briefly, because we have to wrap up in a second, what should we be telling young people? Should actually teachers and schools and colleges be trying to push young people to learn a skill more so than they are pushing them to go to university these days?
Well, I think we should be open and honest with young people and say that it matters where you go and what you study and what you want to do. So if you want to do a certain trade, going to university is not the correct path for you. If you want to go into a certain industry, it might be far better to go and do an apprenticeship or even a degree apprenticeship. And we should be tailoring our careers advice and support to the individual rather than the masses, and not focusing on figures like how many are going to university as if that is the prize, because it's not the prize at all, and even in the long term it's not.
OK, Michelle Donnellan, former Secretary of State, thank you so much for joining me to talk me through a very interesting topic there. I'm sure many parents at home will be livid over that. But anyway, let's move on to this. We got a little right of reply here from a university spokesman. UAE American Students Programme maintains high academic standards with typical offers at ABB and contextual offers made to support students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Entry grades are just one part of a holistic admissions process designed to recognise potential beyond raw scores. We're proud to offer inclusive education that leads to strong graduate success, and we remain committed to academic excellence, opportunity and supporting every student to thrive. There we go. All right then, coming up, I'll bring tomorrow's front pages of all the press to you, actually. You never know, there could be some breaking news. And would you believe that giving away the Chagos Islands will apparently cost the UK almost £35 billion? That's 10 times more than we were told. Join me after the break for some more bombshell news. See you shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and a bit of a north-south split over the next 12 or so hours. Outbreaks of rain pushing across Northern Ireland and Scotland, but high pressure dominating across much of England and Wales. You can see those weather fronts moving in as we go through the next few hours, introducing outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and Scotland, pushing its way eastwards. Rain will be hit and miss. There'll be light and patchy in places, but there is the risk of a few heavier bursts. Generally elsewhere, it's largely dry with clear spells and mist and fog patches forming. The cloud and rain just starting to edge into northern parts of England by the end of the night. So a north-south split to start Monday morning. Best of the sunshine across central and southern parts of England and Wales, but a different picture across the northern half of the UK. Fairly cloudy across Scotland, outbreaks of rain. Though there could be a few glimmers of brightness here and there, and after a damp start for Northern Ireland, the sun should start to appear here too, and a mixed picture across northern England. A few mist and fog patches first thing across the rest of England and Wales, but they will soon clear, and then there'll be plenty of hazy sunshine as we go through the day. There is the risk of one or two heavy showers or thunderstorms starting to move up from the southwest as we move through the day, but most places will stay dry, and the rain across the north will become more confined to northern Scotland as we move into the afternoon. And feeling quite hot, particularly in the sunshine, temperatures reaching around 31 Celsius for many, the mid to high 20s. And then into Tuesday again, A lovely day to come, plenty of hazy sunshine, the risk of 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places in the heat of the day, but many places dry with sunny spells and temperatures lifting further, reaching around 32 or 33 Celsius. Probably the peak in the heat, but staying very warm through the rest of the week, temperatures well above average. See you soon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight. On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
It is 10 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong. This is Ben Leo Tonight. Breaking tonight on the front of tomorrow's Telegraph. Remember when we were told how much the Chagos deal was going to cost?
Long-term figure of 3.4 billion in today's money.
Oh, 3.4 billion, eh? Well, it's now been revealed that we're giving away territory that will cost 10 times more, almost £35 billion, according to the government's own estimates. I will bring you the latest on that scandal. And also on the front page of tomorrow's Telegraph, ahead of A-level results day next week, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has admitted that white working-class children in Britain are being written off by society. She says it's a national disgrace that too many are not getting the grades to go to university. Also breaking tonight.
Our goal is not to occupy Gaza. Our goal is to free Gaza, free it from Hamas terrorists.
Yes, this is across many front pages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defends his government's plan to take over Gaza City. And are you over 70 years old? And do you drive? Well, tomorrow's Times is reporting that those who fail compulsory eye tests could be banned from the roads under a government overhaul of the UK road safety regulation. Ooh, big one there. Also reports that the drink driving limit will be reduced. What, to half a pint? I'll bring you all the details, and we'll be joined by the editor-at-large for the Mail, Charlotte Griffiths, to talk about the latest development in Prince Harry's charity row drama. And, of course, joining me this evening, GB News contributor Will Kingston, broadcaster Fahima Mohammed, and political commentator Chloe Dobbs. And what is going on here? Yes, lots to take a look at in tomorrow's front pages. We've got to start with the Telegraph, haven't we? Starmer hid £30 billion cost of the Chagos surrender. Official figures reveal the cost is 10 times higher than the Prime Minister has claimed. Big one. We'll be diving straight into that, trust me. Let's have a look at the Eye. Let me see if I can find it here. Yes, UK calls for halt to path of destruction as Netanyahu insists Gaza City plan will end the war. Of course, he's been hit with loads and loads of condemnation from Western countries. And The Independent, this is not in our name. It's time to end the war. Of course, that's there as fury grows within Israel over Netanyahu's defiant bid to finish job in Gaza. The hostages' family have said that, supposedly. And The Metro. Mo Salah, football star Mo Salah, has kicked off at Gaza death. Liverpool's Mo Salah takes on Euro soccer chiefs as Palestinian Pele is kicked in Israeli airstrike. Wow, we will be digging into these front pages here. But listen, we cannot get started with anything other than this horrendous news on the front of the Telegraph that Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has allegedly hid £30 billion cost of the Chagos surrender. Will, what do you make of that?
Well, for starters, whenever a Chagos story pops up, I need to take a beat to rewire my brain because you have to comprehend the stupidity of it. Normally, when you talk about a deal, you say, we are giving something away and getting something in return. Whereas here, you need to stop and say, we are giving something away and then we're giving something else away to give it away.
Yeah.
But in this particular instance, it's not a surprise because we did hear from the Conservatives and anyone, you know, who was being half honest that this would be closer to the real number. But what it goes to is the fundamental lack of trust that we can have in this government. This isn't the first time that we've seen zero transparency. It isn't the first time we've seen lies. This is now becoming a pattern for the Starmer government.
Yeah, Fahima, Labour ministers are, according to the Telegraph, potentially being accused of misleading Parliament here on this. This could be a huge scandal. This is, of course, this number's been retrieved by the Telegraph for a Freedom of Information request. So what do you make of that news?
I just think a lot of journalists and newspapers are and should be held to account for falsifying narratives and propaganda and rhetoric, because the actual deal is still 3.4 billion, not 30 billion. The 30 billion is a political projection based on decades of speculation. So this is going to be over 99 sort of years. And the thing is, it's not getting anything back because the deal still preserves a key US-UK military base on the Diego Garcia.
That we've given away.
So at the same time, it doesn't matter, meaning that the UK still has a defence footprint here. So I think no matter what, people don't want to follow international law, whatever. We cannot pick and choose. We have to set the precedent of being what we need to be so that other countries, and that's the whole idea of being in a Western democracy and also, against and also not part of those authoritarian and other countries in that way, that we can follow suit and we can actually be
one second. Let's go, Chloe, then Will.
Everybody here agrees that we need to have access to that military base, but I wouldn't hand you you the keys to my house and then say, can I pay you some rent so I can stay in my own house? I mean, it's completely bonkers. This is a perfect example, just like how we were talking about the ECHR earlier, where we are absolute fools who will just listen to any kind of international body, even when we don't have to. But the reason why this has been done is because the ICJ made this bonkers judgment and said we need to hand these islands away. They never belonged to Mauritius, and we just said, OK, fine, we'll do it, and we'll pay a load of money to do it.
Let me read a little bit of detail here, and then I'll get on to you, Will. So an official document produced by the government actuaries, I've never heard of this, actuaries department, now shows the cost of the deal was first estimated at 10 times Sir Keir's figure at £34.7 billion in nominal terms. It explains how the cost was then lowered by the government using inflation estimates, then reduced again under a controversial accounting method, sometimes used for long-term projects, Will. Of course, there's a lot to read into it, because one thing governments are very, very good at is sort of shifting the narrative around, being clever with data, being clever with numbers, and I don't want to accuse them of doing something they haven't done, because maybe we do need to dig into this more, but it does, that 3.4 billion did seem a rather low figure, particularly when you consider the fact that Mauritius has given an income tax break to 90% of its population with the money.
I forgot about that. Jesus. Yeah, it is extraordinary. Femi, you said that you need to call out propaganda, and then I think you said something along the lines of, well, no, it's still 3.4 billion because the 30 billion is a projection. We still have to pay that money out. Just because we have to pay it out over a longer period of time doesn't mean we don't have to pay that money out. And the thing which is so extraordinarily incomprehensible is that we don't have the money to spend on this sort of stuff. We have so many services which need money more than this. This is just yet another thing we can't afford.
Yeah, Chloe, I think just reading on it, so I'm catching up with this because it's a breaking story. We're catching up. We're literally giving this to you live as it's coming. Chloe, just reading on a bit here, from what I was previously saying, the total cost which ministers refused to release to Parliament is equivalent to 10 Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carriers, or more than half the annual school's budget. So the fact that the Telegraph are saying that the government refused to release the total cost does potentially lead to say, at least perhaps maybe these allegations of misleading Parliament are true.
I think that we are being run by a government that thinks that we Brits don't deserve to know the truth. Not just on this, on many things. For example, the Home Office refusing to consult communities when they're going to open up a migrant hotel. They think these people are too dumb to know we are going to keep it a secret from them. Then, of course, I mean, this was started by the Tories, but the Afghan data leak kept a secret from us because they think, oh, the dumb public don't deserve to know about this. We know best and the public don't, so we're just going to keep it a secret from them. And I think that Keir Starmer most definitely knew that it was 34.7 billion, but he thought that we didn't deserve to know because we might push back against it and be upset.
Yeah, for him, I think, listen, I think no matter what happens, even if it was 3.4 billion, British people are generally going to be outraged, particularly when they're going through a cost of living crisis, particularly when they're being told the government have got to make benefits cuts, particularly when they at home are suffering. But besides that, even if this 30 billion was 15 billion, the fact that the number may actually be incorrect and that ministers allegedly here by the Telegraph have said that they refuse to release the total cost to Parliament may actually prove, or at least be some indication, that there was something to hide.
I don't think governments are that stupid to say that they're going to hide things. I think we just can't be sensitive. And to be fair,
you're so woefully optimistic.
No, it's not about optimism. At the end of the day, even releasing these kind of Afghani or wherever they come from is because they know how the public will actually respond, like they did last year. It's no laughing matter when you're not sitting on the other side and getting attacked.
Don't let the plebs know. They can't be trusted. No,
it's not about that. It's because people respond and react irresponsibly. And that's what happened. Even so,
what makes politicians more responsible than the average man watching this show?
They're not responsible, but they do have the figures there. We're just getting it now, and we're not reading it as it was. There's no hidden agenda. It is just something I Googled, and
I want to keep reading it because this is bombshell stuff. What you're hearing here on TV at the moment is bombshell news, because I think this is going to absolutely blow up the news week this week. Let me just keep reading. The document shows that civil servants were first instructed to lower the cost of the deal on paper to 10 billion to account account for an estimated annual inflation rate of 2.3% over 99 years. Then it was reduced again by 2.5 and then 3.5% per year using the Treasury's social time preference rate. What is all this jargon? I know you're all thinking the same thing as me. What is this rubbish? Using the Treasury's social time preference rate, a Treasury principle that money spent immediately is better value than funds earmarked for future spending. This is, and I hasten to add this to all of you at home. Government, listen, I have worked in politics here and there. Governments do this all the time. They play clever with money. They play clever with data. They play clever with figures in order to give you a better narrative, even if the first one they didn't like wasn't very good. The 3.4 billion is way more. You can stomach that way more than you can 30 billion. Chloe, I just feel like the British people, seeing stories like this, whether it was the Tories with the Afghan data, whether it's Starmer potentially, allegedly, with this 30 billion hidden cost, people are going to start feeling, what on earth am I voting for people who are meant to be democratically elected to represent me in Parliament, to do what's best for me, can't even tell me the truth?
I know that.
Even if we don't like it.
Yeah, they just think, as I said before, that we don't deserve to know. And I just want to come back on the point that Fahima made about, you know, we've got to be careful what we tell people because we don't want to have a situation like last year. I presume you were referring to the riots. None of us here, I think we can all agree, none of us here condone rioting. But what is absolutely unacceptable is the government hiding the truth from us on things because they are worried about that. I mean, for example, the grooming gang scandal, so much of it was kept undercover for so many years because they worried about inflaming community tensions. I'm sorry, but if there being a small risk of rioting means that we get to know the truth about what we deserve to know the truth about.
It's the fact that everyone is put under the same banner. You're not sitting on the opposite side. You're not the one that is there called out just because you have a different skin colour or you come from a certain background.
Hang on, stop.
So that is completely wrong. And I'm not saying that this information should not have been, but at the end of the day, it is there. It's just that people are not intelligent enough to look it up and actually see it or even read it. We're not economists, and we're certainly not the ones to actually read and understand these figures.
So do you think we don't deserve to know because we're too dumb? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think the information's there, we can't read it.
But to give some
there.
clarity...
It's never actually been
But to
hidden.
give some clarity, it has because Parliament, ministers refuse to release the final cost. The difference is journalists here have had to put in a freedom of information request to the government to try and dig through all these papers to find the actual true cost. And I think that's what's really jarring for people here. And it's really...
That and Starmer lied.
Well, if let's be... Allegedly. I don't want to accuse them of lying. If we have to see how the story develops. It seems that way from this article. But I think the difficulty is, and I think we mustn't undersimplify it, because, yes, the information is there, but you have to put a freedom of information request and you have to be able to be relatively well-versed in politics to understand the documents you're reading. And actually, I mean, even some of the best journalists will struggle to come to terms with when they look at some of these papers and go, I've never heard of the Department of Factoring before.
Titles out which give an extremely wrong idea of what it is in the first place. That's what I think.
Well, you may be right, but we'll find out. You may be right.
That's what
you may
it
be
is.
right. OK.
That's what inflames things.
Yeah, final word to you on this, Chloe. Your summary of the Chagos, botched Chagos surrender, in my opinion, because I think this has just been a chaotic from start to finish.
I mean, it's completely insane that we ever started this. And one of the reasons why this costs us so much money is because we're giving money to help Mauritians with their own economic development. How about our own economic development at home? We've got crazy terms saying that we have to inform the Mauritians before we're going to launch an attack. We have to employ on this base. We have to employ all Mauritians and whatnot. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's absolutely crazy.
Absolutely crazy stuff. OK, listen, we might return to this later. I wonder if any other papers have picked up on this. It could just be a Telegraph exclusive here, but let's find out, shall we? Coming up after the break, loads more to dig into. Of course, I'm looking here at a raft of Gaza, Palestine-related stuff. This is really starting to heat up, well, not just here in the studio, but I think across the world. But before the break, it's your time now to get involved in the great British giveaway and your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year, plus an extra $5,000 in your bank to play with. And if you don't have a monthly mortgage or pay rent, we'll give you 15 grand in cash instead. Here's all the details you're going to need.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck, everybody. Well, coming up, we'll have the inside track on a big story involving Prince Harry. Does it ever end? And lots more of your front pages. I'm Alex Armstrong. This is Ben Leo Tonight. See you after the break.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Our reporter Anna Riley is in Ilkley. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hey,
by gum, what accents you've got there this morning. Happy Yorkshire Day and welcome to Ilkley. It certainly is God's own country, is Yorkshire. Absolutely splendid place, and of course we're so proud of our culture. We've got our own language, we've got our own sayings, and it's just a beautiful part of the world. Celebrated every year on the 1st of August. It's arranged by the Yorkshire Society, and it's all about celebrating our heritage, and it's going to be great for businesses as well as the town here today. We're going to have a procession of mayors coming through later this morning, the largest gathering of civic mayors in the world, and we're going to hear the town crier and also on Ilkley Moor bar taps, which means on Ilkley Moor without your hat. The unofficial anthem of Yorkshire is going to be sung. We're joined this morning now by Joe Smith. He's the retail manager of Lishman's of Ilkley, and of course a butcher with a pork pie.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tell us about Yorkshire Day and what it means to you.
So Yorkshire Day for us is very good for the business and all the local authorities. It brings all people down to the shop celebrating Yorkshire Day. I think today will especially be great.
What is it about Yorkshire folk and about the countryside that we've got here as well, the moors, and what do you think draws people here?
Well, it's just the natural beauty, and it's away from everything. You know, we're not in the city, we're in a really nice kind of area.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, I'm going to be joined by Charlotte Griffiths, who's the editor-at-large at The Mail on Sunday. Charlotte, you have wrote a piece about Prince Harry today. Now, I don't want to get... I found this a little bit confusing because there's lots of different headlines about this. So could you kick us off and give us the truth of the matter?
Well, what it is that Harry has broken away very famously from Senator Barley. Now, Senator Barley earned most of its money from Harry. So, for example, Harry gave £1.1 million from his book Spare to Centre Bali. He does this celebrity polo match every other year, and that raises about £740,000. So he's got kind of a lot of earning potential. And, you know, whether you love him or hate him, he's incredibly famous. So he's kind of the biggest money spinner in Centre Bali. And not only that, but he's passionate about raising money for children in Lesotho. He's very good friends with Prince Seeiso, who's from the area, and he set up the charity in honour of his mother 19 years ago. And it's his life's work. It's his massive passion. So now he needs to find a new avenue for all this money-making potential and also his genuine love for the charity. So he's looking to find a new way to basically give money to the area. And what they're talking about at the moment is him either starting a new charity, though that's not confirmed yet, or just finding other avenues to donate money to the region. And yeah, so that's kind of the latest thing, really. That's the latest development, is he's sort of hitting back against Centre Bali. He's in this huge row with the woman who runs it, Sophie Chandauka, and he believes truly that Centre Bali operated under her leadership a hostile takeover that ousted him from his own charity. So he's just wondering kind of how to hit back, how to do his own thing, and how to break away from Centre Bali but continue the good work that he's really passionate about.
Yeah, so do you think, well, of course, for Harry and perhaps even Meghan as well, this is sort of one of the sort of remaining royal things they may do, which is participate in charity work. Can you see them potentially setting up another charity, or does that feel a little bit far-fetched? Perhaps he could just go in and be a chairman of a charity or be an honorary member of a charity, or is that more likely the route he takes?
I think he probably could set up a new charity. I know that they honestly don't know, because this all kicked off this week, you know, and we've got Sunday now, but they are literally genuinely are in the talking stages. I think a new charity would be a great idea. What I do know is that I don't think Archewell and Meghan would be involved. I think Harry would seek for it to be his own thing with Prince Seeiso. So, I mean, I watch this space, but they literally don't know yet. But that is what they're talking about. They're just trying to find, they're just throwing around some ideas. But, you know, the real thrust of my story today was just because he's not in Centre Bali anymore, you know, don't expect not to see him, you know, doing this kind of work. And to your point, it is important to him to keep this kind of these kind of appearances going, you know, where he's kind of regal. Yes, he's not a member of the royal family, but he still walks for the Halo Trust. He still does these visits to Africa. You know, that is part of who he is, part of what he believes in, but it does sort of help the brand.
Yes, absolutely. Well, one of our panel here, Will Kingston, would like to ask you a question on the back of this, Charlotte, so I'll pass it over to Will.
Yeah, g'day, Charlotte. You mentioned the breakdown in the relationship with the CEO, which we know is a pattern of behaviour. We know that Meghan and Harry have had a relationship breakdown with almost everyone they've worked with, and I've heard plenty of anecdotes about how awful Meghan is to work with. I've heard less about Harry's working style. What is it about the way that Harry works which means that it seems to be this pattern of just continuous breakdowns in relationships in professional environments?
Well, Sophie has in the past sort of defended Harry and said that he can be quite charming to work with. My personal opinion is that he's quite impulsive, and he's really, really genuinely so passionate about this. So I do wonder whether in the past, I think Sophie has spoken about some text messages that she exchanged with him, whether those moments he can be quite fraught and fire off the odd text message and stuff. But I think with Centre Bali, you know, with Prince Seeiso, they do work quite well together. They do say that when Harry's passionate about something and he really is involved in something, he can be quite easy to work with. I mean, Meghan is a whole different issue, isn't it? But she's not very involved in Centre Bali, you know.
Interesting stuff. Chloe?
Charlotte, do you think that the primary reason for Harry wanting to do more charity work is a genuine, authentic desire to help people, or do you think the main reason is really because he's desperate to repair his damaged reputation?
Well, I know what you mean, Chloe, but I do think that Centre Bali, I don't want to sound like I'm always defending Harry, but I mean, this Centre Bali thing happened 19 years ago when he was still the most popular prince. We all adored him. So I think it's probably a little bit unfair to say, you know, he's just doing this for publicity when it kind of predates his bad publicity. And I do think the same about Invictus. I mean, knock him all you like, but Invictus is really successful and amazing. And he's at his best when he's doing this kind of stuff and he's not selling out his family, doing books, doing Oprah. You know, I think what we really like as a nation, as Britain, about Harry is when he's being authentic. And the reason why he gets himself in so much trouble is because he doesn't authentically want to do Oprah and slag off his family. And I think he is moving away from all that now. So, I mean, any PR sort of advisor worth his salt would be saying to him, just do what you actually care about, because that's what comes through. And it's all this nonsense, this kind of faux Americanisms that drives everyone a bit crazy, I think.
Yes, well, before we move on to the next story, Charlotte, I'm just going to read out this writer reply from a spokesperson for Prince Harry has said this. The Duke remains absolutely committed to continuing the work he started supporting the children and young people of Lesotho and Botswana nearly 20 years ago. In what form that support takes, no decisions have been made. All options remain on the table, whether that be starting a new charity or working to support pre-existing charities operating in the same sector in the region. OK. Right, let's move on to this story about JD Vance, the good people of the Cotswolds, who have got more than they bargained for today as they tried to make their way to their Sunday lunch. The tiny hamlet of Dean is currently on lockdown as the Vice President, JD Vance, is taking his holiday there. Apparently, the American officials have been overheard mocking the bacon butty. What a scandal! Hey, Charlotte, what's going on there?
This is a story that's going to be quite big in the Times tomorrow, and it's this idea that the Cotswold has turned into California. I mean, actually, Meghan and Harry did actually used to live there back in the day before they fell out with this country. Then you got Ellen DeGeneres living there, and now you've got JD Vance on holiday, staying at Johnny and Pippa Hornby's amazing Edwardian house with this fabulous swimming pool that won Tatler's Best Swimming Pool Award. But with it comes, in this sleepy little Cotswolds village, security tents, sniffer dogs, cordons. By the way, I think we're paying for this as the taxpayer. You know, kind of roadblocks left, right and centre. And the Times have done this amazing interview with somebody called Janet, who was just going about her daily walk and just said, this is insane, you know, it's like American kind of officers everywhere. And apparently the American officers were complaining that they weren't expecting to use sunblock in the UK because they thought it would be raining here, but actually we're having a heat wave, thank you very much, Americans. And the other thing they were doing was mocking the bacon butty, which I feel very offended by.
I'm offended by it too.
They're going to mock a bacon butty.
Damn right. I think there's many things you can mock in this country, but a bacon butty is surely off limits, Charlotte. I mean, I guess so, but the question remains that, you know, good relations with a man who looks likely, I guess, at the moment to be the leading nominee for the Republican ticket in 2029, I believe, for the next presidential election is not a bad thing for Britain. He's been cozying up to David Lammy. So do you think we should just suck it up and get on with it, perhaps?
I think we should suck it up, but we should just take so much amusement from this summer event. I mean, the idea of JD Vance fishing in this pool with Lammy as well. He was fishing in the pond and there wasn't any water in it. It does all seem a bit performative, I've got to say. But it's just very amusing. It never ceases to amaze me that the Cotswolds has become this kind of showbiz, celebrity, American presidential candidate kind of place, because it really is very small. You know, these little villages are tiny, and they couldn't even cope with diddly squat farms. I don't know how they're coping with these visits to Johnny Hornby's. Apparently Johnny Hornby, who's this kind of massive Cotswolds legend, has gone around apologising to everyone locally, saying, you know, please don't hate me when JD Vance moves out, because he's got to still live there. He's loaned his house to JD. He's got to live there for the whole year round. And he doesn't want to fall out with all the villagers. And there's nothing better than a British villager sort of curtain twitching and getting in a grump about, you know, the roads being blocked and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, there's nothing more British than that, is there? We all get frustrated. Our roads are bad enough at the best of times, let alone when the Vice President's got his motorcade of cars looking after them. But there we go. Right, let's move on to another Times story tonight, because they're reporting that ministers are preparing the biggest shake-up of driving rules for 2 decades, including mandatory eye tests for over 70s and a reduction in the drink driving alcohol limit. Charlotte, this would be a very big shake-up. Perhaps we start with the over 70s who fail eye tests. What do you make of this story? What are the sort of the implications the Times are leading into on this?
Well, I don't know. I first got my heckles up on the whole nanny state situation, because it's called the road strategy, and I always do a big eye roll when there's a strategy from Labour.
Yeah.
But But you know, the over 70s thing does actually seem pretty obvious. If you don't have good eyesight and you need glasses, you know, you can't drive. You know, I mean, if you're in really bad eyesight, and they cited an example in Times of somebody who hit 2 or 3 objects, and it turned out that he couldn't see more than 2 meters in front of him.
Goodness me.
So I suppose that does make sense. And the other thing I would say is there's they are reducing the alcohol limit to be more in line with Scotland. And I have to say, I kind of agree with that, because I've always been confused about how much I'm allowed to drink before I drive and what a unit is. I know it sounds ridiculous. We should know exactly what a unit is. But I do think in general, people will have a glass of wine and then not really know exactly where the line is, what they're allowed to, can they have a second glass? And then, of course, alcohol is a big de-inhibitor. So I'm sure there are people out there who have a glass and go, oh, of course I can have a second glass because they're slightly tipsy. So they are kind of bringing those rules, well, they're bringing down the alcohol limit, basically.
Yeah. Are they suggesting, Charlotte, that they're going to bring it down but also simplify the system? Because I think everyone is confused by our units. You're absolutely right. I mean, even when your doctor asks how many units do you drink a week, they end up having to say X amount of pints of X. So to clarify it for everybody. So are they implying here that, yes, there will be a lower limit, but also will simplify the system? I apologise, I haven't seen the story yet, so over to you.
Yeah, they are going to simplify the system, although they are bringing down the units. I might be misquoting this, from 22 to 11. But again, I still don't really... Or is it 12?
What does it mean? Yeah.
I still don't understand. I wish they'd just say... I'm sorry to be a bit nanny statish myself here, but wouldn't it just be easier if you can't have any alcohol before you drive?
Yeah, it really would be. Designated driver, it would be. But you know, us Brits, the problem is, I guess maybe the problem, the reality is that we are such a pub culture. Many people at home, like, you know, especially if you do live perhaps in the Cotswolds and you wanted to go to the pub where JD Vance might be hanging about, you might want to go for a pint and then drive back home to see your friends. So I guess there's all these different sort of cultural circumstances that might make people bat an eyelid at this. But I guess if you're living in big cities, there's not really that much excuse anymore, but given there's Ubers and taxis everywhere, perhaps.
But it's a good point, because you know, people outside of London, they have to worry about the buses and stuff. So if they did stop everybody over 70 who can't see that well driving, you know, how are they going to get around? Because Labour is cutting bus services. And I am conscious that I need to be, you know, we're lucky in Paddington where the studio is, we've got plenty of transport around. But if you're kind of elsewhere in the country and there are some draconian new rules about whether your eyesight affects your driving over 70, and we're all living till we're 90, what are you going to do for 20 years if you live in a village or in the Cotswolds or wherever?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, you might end up having to ride a horse to the pub or something ridiculous, or a bicycle, or who knows? I mean, when my parents live, they're a little bit in the sticks now, and if you do want to go for a pint, and there are no cabs, and so it's one of those things. Maybe it will impact people's social lives, and I do fear for the elderly, you know, being stuck indoors when you go to the pub might be their lives. But anyway, hopefully we'll see what that means when the government come a little bit clearer on how many units, what a unit is, perhaps. Right. Anyway, moving on. Coming up. Thank you, Charlotte Griffiths, by the way, for joining us. Really appreciate your brilliant insights into all these stories hitting your front pages tomorrow. Coming up, find out about small boat migrants who are apparently getting days out in... Get this, I'm sorry, I'm reading this as we go. Small boats. And do you know what? We might be revisiting that huge news that potentially the Prime Minister may have hit, according to the Telegraph, £30 billion of that Chagos surrendered. I think that's massive, but stay tuned. This is Alex Armstrong standing in for Ben Leo. See you after the break.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and a bit of a north-south split over the next 12 or so hours. Outbreaks of rain pushing across Northern Ireland and Scotland, but high pressure dominating across much of England and Wales. You can see those weather fronts moving in as we go through the next few hours, introducing outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and Scotland, pushing its way eastwards. Rain will be hit and miss. There'll be light and patchy in places, but there is the risk of a few heavier bursts. Generally elsewhere, it's largely dry with clear spells and mist and fog patches forming. The cloud and rain just starting to edge into northern parts of England by the end of the night. So a north-south split to start Monday morning. Best of the sunshine across central and southern parts of England and Wales, but a different picture across the northern half of the UK. Fairly cloudy across Scotland, outbreaks of rain, though there could be a few glimmers of brightness here and there. And after a damp start for Northern Ireland, the sun should start to appear here too, and a mixed picture across northern England. A few mist and fog patches first thing across the rest of England and Wales, but they will soon clear, and then there'll be plenty of hazy sunshine as we go through the day. There is the risk of 1 or 2 heavy showers or thunderstorms starting to move up from the southwest as we move through the day, but most places will stay dry, and the rain across the north will become more confined to northern Scotland as we move into the afternoon. And feeling quite hot, particularly in the sunshine, temperatures reaching around 31 Celsius for many, the mid to high 20s. And then into Tuesday again, a lovely day to come, plenty of hazy sunshine. The risk of 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places in the heat of the day, but many places dry with sunny spells, and temperatures lifting further, reaching around 32 or 33 Celsius. Probably the peak in the heat, but staying very warm through the rest of the week. Temperatures well above average. See you soon.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Ben Leo tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, more front pages have just arrived, but let's just recap that Telegraph story there, that huge breaking story from the Telegraph tonight. Starmer hit cost of 30 billion. Chagos surrender. So the Telegraph here accusing the official figures, saying that the total cost is 10 times higher than the Prime Minister claimed, with the Telegraph being as strong here as saying that the Prime Minister and ministers may have misled Parliament on that cost. That story, if it's true, will be huge. The Daily Mail. 26,000 prisoners freed early by Labour. In just 7 months, hundreds jailed for more than 10 years are released. Are Labour really not that tough on crime? And maybe this big deportations stuff is coming off the back of this. There we go. Daily Express. Councils claim whole streets offered for use by migrants. This one is going to make people's blood boil. Entire streets are being lined up for accommodation for asylum seekers only, Reform Council chiefs have claimed. So we will come back to that one, I promise you that. The Sun. Dinghy migrants get dinghy days out. Get this. But this is absolutely bonkers. Migrants arriving on small boats are being offered cut-price dinghy days out by the taxpayer. Oh, goodness me. The Guardian. Another calamity. UN's warning as Netanyahu defends Gaza plan. Of course, they're leading with that news on Benjamin Netanyahu's statements today. The Daily Mirror. Andrew won't visit US again. Point of no return. Prince Andrew's terrified by America trips after Epstein Congress call. Interesting, more stuff on Epstein there. And the last one here is the Times. As we were just talking about before the break, drivers over 70 face eye tests every 3 years. Labour, of course, also looking to lower the alcohol limit too. All right, let's. I think there is nowhere else to start with my fantastic panel: Will Kingston, Chloe Dobbs, Fahima Mohammed here, than the Daily Express. Count the 12 reform authorities here. This is 12 reform authorities. They are warning the Home Office is about They are warning Home Office about areas made available to asylum seekers. Councils claim whole streets offered for use by migrants. Entire streets are being lined up to accommodate asylum seekers only, Reform Council chiefs have claimed. Will, what do we make of that?
Well, It goes back to this promise that was made by the government that they're going to slowly move people out of migrant hotels, at least by the end of this government. And it's like they think it's the hotel that is the issue, not the fact that you're giving people free accommodation to stay in the country. Like, if anything, what this is actually worse than putting economic migrants in a hotel, because they are more embedded in the community, because often you do not know where they are, and often they will be closer to areas like schools than they currently are in hotels. This is, if anything, is considerably worse than what we've seen with these current hotels that are being occupied.
Yeah, I think this is the really major concern, because the government have been saying, oh, we're going to close hotels, we're going to close hotels. That's not really what people are enraged about, is it? It's not what people are
want
enraged
the
about.
boats to stop coming. This is not a solution. I mean, if they're going to be in accommodation, then, you know, save yourself the bother, keep them in the hotel. I mean, why bother moving them into private rented accommodation? I feel like this government, I've seen it time and time again in the year that they've been here. What they do to try and please the country is they just play with numbers. So they think, we'll buy a hotel and then we'll call it something else, so we can say, we've closed that hotel down, when they actually haven't, and we're going to move them into private rented accommodation so we can boast that we have closed the hotels when they actually haven't. We see them boasting with all sorts of figures that they've played around with. So, for example, saying, we've deported 35,000 people. We're smashing the gangs. Those were not people that came here on boats, but they're acting as though they were.
Well, it goes back to that instinct.
They're not achieving anything meaningful. They're just playing with numbers to act like they've done something. I mean, when they put up their list, when it was the anniversary of a year in power, of everything they achieved, I just laughed.
It goes back to that instinct we were talking about before of this government just thinking people are stupid.
Yeah, they think that we're done. They think
I
we'll
do
fall for
also
this.
believe that at the end of the day, the UK has been involved in wars directly and indirectly for the last 2 decades, and those countries have had millions of deaths and displacements. And there is a responsibility by law, or the fact that people are
Give me a law.
At the end of the day, we've got the refugee asylum seekers, and we've got people that are coming for economic sort of like relief at the end of the day as well. They're not all criminals, as you say. If you want integration, if you want certain things, you can't just make them all in the same banner.
No one is suggesting that they are all criminals, but there is a proportionality issue.
They enter the country illegally. They are criminals by definition.
But they also have a right to seek help if they require, because like I said, in the last 2 decades, the UK has been involved in these countries, and they do not just come overnight. So at the end of the day...
How was the UK involved in Eritrea?
How what?
How was the UK involved in Eritrea?
In Eritrea, we're not just talking about that. You bring about all of them, and you are always making about, you know, immigrants as in all under one banner. What we have to understand is, if they have better processes done in this country, it is not the migrants' fault, it is the government's fault for not having the actual skilled people and the processes to make sure that these things are actually going to be dealt with properly.
I think the difficulty is...
If you want integration, it has to be both ways as well.
Sure.
You cannot just put all of them under as criminals. They're not criminals in that definition.
I think the difficulty is for people at home, and this is for people up and down the country are feeling this, because this is why we're seeing these nationwide protests. The difficulty is people at home are feeling that they are coming second. There are people who are on 10-year social housing lists, who are legal migrants and British citizens who are waiting patiently for social housing, and they're going to have councils potentially here. And I heard a story not that long ago that councils were considering buying up empty properties across the country.
Well, those are also people that are selling that.
Well, sure, but the point is that if the priority is illegal migrants or asylum seekers or anybody else above your citizens first, your priority is perhaps in the wrong place. Because surely charity should. Well, in this case, it might be. In this case, it might be, because unfortunately, the way that the social housing system works is based on need, and what councils deem as need and the government deems as need is people who are technically not British, can't speak the language, can't get a job, and have freshly come here. Unfortunately, that is the way it's happening.
You have these kind of rich billionaires who own these kinds of, hotels and properties that are actually making deals, and that's the problem.
But do you sympathise, Nima? Do you sympathise?
They own those migrant hotels.
I'm critical of them, by the way. I'm very critical of them. But do you sympathise with any British person that might feel that they are left behind by the system?
The thing is, just because I'm giving one narrative doesn't mean that I don't sympathise and I don't understand.
That's why I'm asking.
Because at the end of the day, Britain needs to have, obviously, their citizens first, and it is that. It's just that there's not enough housing, there's not enough infrastructure, there's not enough people that are actually building for Britons. They are doing things outside, and they are also interfering outside, which comes eventually to the UK in many forms. And that's what we are missing. It's not just on a micro level, it's a much larger macro level problem that we need to address.
Look, I mean,
very briefly, and final word to Will, very briefly.
Two things can be right at the same time. It is correct that we need to build houses quicker in this country, but it is also correct that even if we were building at a decent rate of housing, we would not have enough space in this country to be putting people who have turned up on About Here First. There are 1.3 million people on the waiting list for social housing.
They're not all being put up. They're not all being put up.
OK, look, we've got way more to talk about. There are so many more front pages here between now and midnight. But now to an appalling story from France. A man has been accused of desecrating Paris's tomb of the unknown soldier after using its eternal flame to light a cigarette. He's been identified as a Moroccan national, and it's being reported that he could now be deported. Here's what happened. Let's get the thoughts of my panellists. Listen, I think this is just... Listen, I don't know whether that man knew what he was doing, but either way, it was clearly a tomb of some kind, right? And I think we cannot excuse that. And I think if France take the tough line of deporting him, then so be it. If you did this in any other country, going to Dubai and you did this, you desecrated even just a bit of property there, they deport you.
But Alex, that line, I don't know if this man knew what he was doing, is precisely the problem with mass migration from people who come from countries that aren't culturally compatible. They don't understand the history, the heritage, the values of countries like France or the United Kingdom. This is a smaller example, but is a microcosm of the problem.
Chloe?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Will that it's not a surprise that you're going to have people coming here that don't understand how to respect our rules and our culture. It's different from where they've come from. They've just been dumped here from another place, or, you know, they've come...
Well, we have people that are homegrown and they don't understand their own values, and they will attack the police, and they will even be criminals themselves.
About that,
but at the same time, we have them from all areas.
Problem. That is not an important problem.
But even still, there are problems within this country, which is even worse, where you say that they don't understand the values. They still have those kind of criminal acts.
Why create new problems then?
It's not creating new problems. They've come in, you don't know what status and what standard. You have no idea. You just see them as some foreigner and you have a problem. That's what it is.
I am a foreigner. I am an immigrant.
Yeah, but of a different, maybe, you know, background. You only prefer a certain breed or certain kind, maybe. That's what it seems like.
I think for many people watching it, what will be difficult is if you know, let's say it was, you know, the cenotaph in the UK and someone did something similar. I think there was just a feeling, particularly because World War II and some of these wars were so brutal for Europe, that actually there should be something more. No, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are, but I feel like the answer should be for people at home. Yes, it's wrong. Everyone knows it's wrong what he's done. It's disgusting what he's done. It's abysmal.
Don't give them a break because they come from Morocco.
Alex, also, sorry, mate, I've got a right of reply because there was an implicit cry of racist there, and that is wrong, and it goes to the heart of this issue. This is not about race, and for you just to suggest that anyone on the right thinks this is about racism, it is not. It's about culture, and the deliberate conflation of the two is why we've had these problems.
OK, sorry. I know, I'd love to keep this debate. I'd love to keep this debate going. Fahima, I'm sorry. Listen, I've got to move on because next I'm going to tell you why suspected shoplifters could be protected by data protection laws. But before then, you're going to stay with us because it's not just getting hot here, it's getting hot across Europe. Here's some of our top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. The European heatwave will continue over the next few days, so some very high temperatures for many places. Lots of blue skies and sunshine, though, including the Canary Islands and Madeira, but the heat is most intense across Iberia, so Portugal and inland parts of Spain seeing temperatures into the low to mid-40s Celsius. Hot also across Italy, the Balkans, Greece and Turkey. And it's going to stay hot over the next few days as well. Lots and lots of sunshine, temperatures in the high 30s or low 40s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, It happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
That stark warning comes as the Justice Secretary approves the trial of taser stun guns ahead of the likely rollout to male prisons.
Well, it follows violent attacks on officers in recent months by two of the country's most dangerous and notorious inmates. Mark White reports.
At this security facility, a mock scenario of the type of violence that's all too common within our prisons. But as the Justice Secretary looks on, those playing the role of perpetrators are about to face a new tactic. Tasers are a very familiar option within frontline policing. But until now, these weapons have not been available to help protect the men and women dealing with some of the country's most violent offenders. That's all about to change.
Drop that weapon, do it now!
As the government begins the trials process ahead of the likely rollout of taser within male prisons.
I know that staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period, and it's designed to make sure that we can learn lessons about the use of tasers within a custodial environment, which is different to how tasers are normally used.
It was shocking attacks on prison officers, alleged to have been carried out by two of the country's most notorious inmates, that focus national attention on the real dangers faced by prison staff.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back from 11 o'clock. We're going to have more of tomorrow's front pages. They've been bombshells so far. But moving on, are you looking for some good news? Because we've got some here. Will, what's your good news of this week?
That lovely little story I read in the Times, Alex, about repair cafes. Have you heard of repair cafes?
No.
No, it's a concept started in Amsterdam. There's about 270 in the UK now. Groups of volunteers come. You can bring anything that's broken. It could be a little, item that's in your garage that isn't quite working, and a repairman will help you fix it, and you have a chat at the same time. It's a way to bring community together. It's a way to encourage recycling. I think it's a wonderful little insight into what makes rural and regional England great.
I love that story. It's very, very old school British style stuff.
Repaircafe.com if you want to find your nearest repair cafe.
There you go, Chloe.
So there used to be a bunch of red tape making it near impossible for service personnel living in military accommodation to have any pets. But now this week, it's now going to be automatic. If you are living in military accommodation, you're a soldier, and you want to have pets, you can have 2 pets. And I think that's great because it's such a hard job. A lot of soldiers, they struggle with PTSD and whatnot. And I think to have a dog can really help them with that, or a cat.
Yeah, or the alternative, it does become, if everyone had 2 pets, it probably might get a bit wild, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying. I like the idea, though. Fahima, what have you got for us?
Well, something scientific. As I have studied neuroscience, scientists have made a breakthrough of tracking predators like the giant Asian hornet, helping protect honeybees.
Oh, right.
So that's really good because it will actually advance the aim of safeguarding bees and actually also the essential for pollination as well as the ecosystem health.
Oh, there you go.
Wonderful.
We love that. I mean, listen, we've got to protect the bees these days. We've got to protect the bees. We do. We need it. They are critical to our
Alex's
ecosystem.
hottest take.
And that's my hottest take of the day, everybody. Listen,
protect the bees.
loads more coming up from 11 o'clock. We've been bringing you some bombshell breaking news this last hour, and I can guarantee you there's more coming. We'll return to that big Chagos explosion on the front page of the Telegraph there. But of course, that's all from me for now. I'm going to see you all in 5 minutes. So don't put the kettle on, actually. Get a cup of cocoa or something. Join us for the late edition because lots of you are furious about that Chagos story and I want to dig into it. See you after the break.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office, and a bit of a north-south split over the next 12 or so hours. Outbreaks of rain pushing across Northern Ireland and Scotland, but high pressure dominating across much of England and Wales. You can see those weather fronts moving in as we go through the next few hours, introducing outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and Scotland, pushing its way eastwards. Rain will be hit and miss. There'll be light and patchy in places, but there is the risk of a few heavier bursts. Generally elsewhere, it's largely dry with clear spells, some mist and fog patches forming. The cloud and rain just starting to edge into northern parts of England by the end of the night. So a north-south split to start Monday morning. Best of the sunshine across central and southern parts of England and Wales, but a different picture across the northern half of the UK. Fairly cloudy across Scotland, outbreaks of rain. Though there could be a few glimmers of brightness here and there, and after a damp start for Northern Ireland, the sun should start to appear here too, and a mixed picture across northern England. A few mist and fog patches first thing across the rest of England and Wales, but they will soon clear, and then there'll be plenty of hazy sunshine as we go through the day. There is the risk of 1 or 2 heavy showers or thunderstorms starting to move up from the southwest as we move through the day, but most places will stay dry, and the rain across the north will become more confined to northern Scotland as we move into the afternoon. And feeling quite hot, particularly in the sunshine, temperatures reaching around 31 Celsius for many, the mid to high 20s. And then into Tuesday again, a lovely day to come, plenty of hazy sunshine. The risk of 1 or 2 thunderstorms in places in the heat of the day, but many places dry with sunny spells, and temperatures lifting further, reaching around 32 or 33 Celsius. Probably the peak in the heat, but staying very warm through the rest of the week. Temperatures well above average. See you soon.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every